Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven VC podcast, where we are reshaping life leadership and I'm going to say investing as well. And I am welcoming to the show Bill Liao. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you very much for having me, Ben.
No, thank you. We've already spoken for like 15 minutes pre-show. I need to extend the time, the invite out, right? Because you and I have just been around
It's
the
going to be a
town.
very short episode.
And I'll just let my audience know that Bill is walking and talking, and I absolutely love it. I'm like, as soon as he jumped on, I'm like, "Are you on a walking machine?" And you're like, "Yeah, you like to walk and talk." So I think I might do a podcast one day where I'm walking and talking, and but I need someone next to me, so it's a little bit wonky on the phone. But hey,
No, no, it's okay. As long as you don't jog and talk, you're fine.
really?
Um, Actually, 2 years ago at the 0100 conference, I did a panel on health and wellness and longevity, and I made all of the panelists walk on treadmills on the stage while I was interviewing them.
I love it. Yeah,
And I was also on a treadmill, and that was hilarious.
yeah.
It's
It's fun.
almost like an episode of Hot Ones, right? You get real truth when people are
So
distracted.
true. So true. It's so funny. When I used to be a runner, believe it or not, and back in the day, my coach used to say to me, he used to make me run, I don't know, 4 kilometers in the mornings. This was when I was in high school and as I got out of high school. And I had to talk the whole way. And I'll never forget the first time he did it. I literally hated the guy because I was like, and we're going up all these mental hills and he's just talking away at me. But it was like it's a sign of, like you say, fitness and health. And anywho, we've got a lot to chat about in a limited amount of time. You are
Yes.
currently based in Ireland. You've been there for 18 years. Pre that, you were in Switzerland for 8 years. But I picked up on this accent and I was like, you almost sound like you're Aussie. And you went, I am. Anywho, you were born in, where were you born
Q,
again?
Q,
You were born in
Q.
Kew. That's right. You were born in Kew. I was thinking you were conceived overseas, but you were born in Kew.
I was made in Taiwan and delivered in Q.
That's right. Yeah, which for everyone, that's really very close to me. So it's like talk about 6 degrees of separation. So you've got two sons,
I must have seen you at the shops sometime when I was growing up
probably,
because
probably.
you're only 10 years my junior. So
Well, there you go. There you go. And I actually do have a hat exactly the same color as yours. I need to pull that out for as we head into
nice.
autumn. But you said to me you've got two sons that are currently living in Australia. One's just moved back from Ireland, and then you've got your daughter
Yes.
and your partner, your wife in Ireland with you. But
Yes.
you have you are like the serial entrepreneur and and you're doing it all for a greater purpose and impact, if you like. So I'm just going to reel all this off and then I'm going to let you just talk and share a little bit about your journey. And I'm sure it's going to go here, there, and everywhere. But let me just reel off all the things that you are involved in or a partner in. And
At least a section of them.
so you're a partner of SOSV, which is one of the world's most active deep tech venture capital firms. And you're co-founder of IndieBio, which is pioneering biotech accelerator backing breakthrough life science startups globally. You've got more than a decade investing at the frontier of synthetic biology, climate tech, food as medicine, and human health. And Bill, you focus on founders saving systemic problems with scalable science, not silence.
Yes.
You're also the
Science.
yeah, you're also the chair of Qatar Fund, which is based out of New Zealand, which is advancing food as medicine. Chair of We Forest, which is no, sorry, you're the founder and co-founder of We Forest, supporting the planting of 110 million self-sustaining trees. You've also helped 3 million women in their villages lift them out of poverty, which is incredible. And you're a committed member of Founders Pledge, having legally pledged a portion of your personal liquidity events to high impact philanthropy. And how I've summed you up, and you are okay for me to say this, was Bill's investment thesis lives at the intersection of capital conscience and compounding. You back technologies that regenerate ecosystems, improve human health, and build long-term planetary resilience. But even beyond resilience, I think about it like anti-fragility, right? Like it's how do
Yes.
we keep bouncing the ecosystem forward, because we always have these fragile moments. So it's not just about bouncing back, it's how do we continue to regenerate them so they continue to go forward. I think I've got, oh, and you are also a partner of Seed Healthcare Fund. No, you're a chair of investment of Seed Healthcare Fund. And I met Todd the other week,
Yeah.
who you do a podcast with, which is Killer Cure Pod. My goodness, there is a lot here. I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell us
Well,
about your
there's only,
journey.
and that's a fraction of it. The most important thing when I look at my journey was understanding something very critical when I was 27. And most people look at personal development and they kind of eschew it and they say, oh, if you go to personal development, all you're going to be doing is paying people for personal development. And I think that's true if you don't take action on what you learn. And the thing that I learned is that the human world occurs in language. And if you want to create a new future, you need to create new language, and then you need to do the important work of living up to that new language. And I think a lot of people have visions and they have dreams and they have, ideas, and they do, they create some language, and then they don't even share it with another person. And even if they do share it, they don't take any actions to make it become real. And so if you agree that the human world occurs in language and that you can design new language that has things occur that you want or that are needed, then you take action, you can pretty much have whatever you want. And I found that, at the time I was 27, I married my lovely wife, Kerry. We had our first child on the way. We had about 30 grand in debt. And Kerry we did personal development stuff, and she went to an organization called the Hunger Project.
Oh, yeah.
And the country director of the Hunger Project India was there with 3 Indian village women. And they were, through an interpreter, talking about what they were committed to and how they were changing their own lives for the better and those of their villages. And Kerry came back to me after that meeting and said, "Oh, Bill, you got to come and see this. They're transforming the world. It's fantastic." And I just pledged $5,000 to them. And I was like, "Yeah, I better come and see them, all right, because there's just no way." And I remember sitting down with the leader afterwards, and I was moved to tears by the courage of these women who'd never seen electricity before, let alone riding on a plane or an elevator or any of these things, right? And they were still just committed to making their lives better. And the leader asked me a question. I said, "Look, leader, there's no way we can give you that money." And she said, "I want you to think about that for a moment." And she played a little trick on me. She said, "Who would you have to become in order to fulfill that pledge without any suffering on your part?" And I just got this vision of me in a tuxedo with a big novelty-sized check and a big smile handing it over. And I thought, I don't know who that guy is, and I want to be that guy. And I quit my job, and I learned how to sell, and I learned how to apply wordsmithing and persuasion. And by my 31st birthday, I had many millions in the bank, and I fulfilled not just the $5,000 pledge, but actually a $100,000 pledge to the Hunger Project. And I realized then too that the technology the Hunger Project uses in terms of human empowerment needs to scale. When I looked at that, I realized that in startups, whether they're social startups or whether they're commercial startups, one of the things that people miss out a lot on is understanding what they truly value and what their real purpose is.
Mm.
So my values, having looked at them over the years and refined them, kindness, curiosity, getting shit done, family, and civility. And the purpose that I have iterated over the decades is a world that works for all living things because civilization thrives.
Mm.
And if you can have such clarity in your business or your startup or your charity, it just makes a huge difference to everything. Because as you know, as a marketer and a promoter, if people don't have a clear message and a message that gets people going, they're really behind the eight ball. And this is where the power of language works incredibly well. The other thing I realized is that self-actualization and uh, you self-fulfillment are kind of empty, hollow promises. The real truth is that we are only at our best when we are mutually fulfilled as teams of people, as societies. We're only at our true best when we are all actualized together.
Mm.
And uh, the age of self-actualization has really allowed psychopaths to thrive because they're self-focused. And if you've been in a great team, you know that winning together is what really, it's just the best. Even a lone golfer, if they're at the height of the game, they've got a caddy, they've got a coach, there's a team of
Yeah,
people there,
support.
even though they're the one hitting the ball, there's all this team that wins with them. Formula One drivers, again, the same. There's a team and they feel that. Lone heroes only win in the movies, and then only if the script is bad.
I love it.
So everything that I've done, and I've done many things, and I do many things, relies on the fact that I'm part of a team or many different teams, and each of those teams is striving to fulfill a particular purpose that is aligned with my own purpose and aligned with the values that I have committed to and live by every day. Like I will not take part with a team where kindness isn't in the room.
Mm.
My address book is empty of unkind people because I delete them very quickly upon detection.
What's your detection radar? Like, how do you detect them?
So I cheat. Um, when I do interviews, I interview people on their values, and I interview them with at least two women in the room with me. Because I found that women are much better at detecting when something's off. And what usually happens with the bad actors is they'll focus on me because they'll assume that I'm the most important person in the room, and they just simulate the bonhomie with me, and the other people in the room, particularly women, feel off. They feel like there's something wrong,
Mm.
and that's my best sign of an early detection system. You can't do it individually because they like the really bad psychopaths will just charm the pants off you one on one. They can't do it one on many.
So true. Oh my God, there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, firstly, like the Human Project, it's so Kerry didn't write a book about the Human Project, did she? Your what? Your
The
partner?
Hunger Project? No, no,
The
she
Hunger,
didn't.
sorry. No,
Hunger
okay, yeah.
Project, yeah. The best book that relates to that would be The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist, which is an absolute page turner.
The Soul of Money. I'm going to read that. I've read The Soul of the Firm, but I haven't read The Soul of Money. And the reason I ask is no, because I did a course years ago, and it was, or I went to a conference, and the Hunger Project was all a part of it, and I was like talking another 6 degree of separation. But tell us a little bit about because like that was just quite profound what you just shared then. And funnily enough, I did a self-actualization training through the USA last year, and it was super interesting. But we didn't look at it just from the individual. We looked at it from the totality of a team and people, and and I think you're right. But I also think that you have to have self-awareness, as part of being part of a team. You can't just come in and like, think that you can just bulldoze a team and take over. It comes back to, that ability to be self-aware of yourself, but also then the team within
Oh,
it.
there are plenty of people that run teams effectively and yet terribly, and they have no self-awareness at all. All they understand is how to manipulate people, and they get very far. They
Yeah,
burn a lot of people out, and everyone I've met has been at their core miserable.
yeah, which is not ideal. And that comes back to
And
any.
yet,
Mm,
and that's the ideal that's held up. You know, the billionaire lone wolf
mm,
is somehow a good thing. I I don't have words for how much I despise the idea of there can be billionaires in the world. Like, make it pile of money, great. Like, there's a point at which you can no longer deploy that capital effectively
mm,
for the benefit of all of the team of human civilization. And at that point, you become disgusting.
yeah.
That's why Founders Pledge is so good, because there's a point at which you say, right, I've got enough. Everything else gets given away before you become a billionaire,
Mm,
not after.
mm. Yeah, it's just fascinating, isn't it? Tell me a little bit about this. I love this notion around new language to make it become real. And you talked around the human world comes in language. And there's something,
Occurs in language.
pardon?
The human world occurs in language.
Sorry, occurs. Yeah, I was writing frantically down as you were talking, but new language, right? I'd love your thoughts on this or your perspective because we're in this new world. The old world is slowly eroding. You can only look what's going on, like on the political stage. The powers that be. You talk about these powerful billionaires and all these powerful people in positions that are doing really bad things. Like I won't go into
Yes.
it, but there's quite a few bad things happening in the world right now. And yet we're in this new world and there's this new opportunity, there's this new place for new language. But my question comes back to you in terms of I'm all about, innovating and creating new language, not for the sake of it, but for the fact that it's required. It's required in this new world. There's endless opportunities here, there's endless possibilities. And putting that into action is, I agree, is completely what you need to do. And you also need to ensure that you're repeating it and so that it gets people catch on's the wrong word, but people understand what you're talking about. It's not just putting it out there and that's it. And it's got to be clear as mud, right? Really clear and crystal clear. But there's also then these naysayers that say you can't say this and you can't say that. People will never understand it. You're too future, you're too this, you're too that. What do you say to that, Bill? Because quite often that can shut down then people's ability to action what they know is within them deep down right and it's part of the new world. Like what do you say to that?
So let me give you a couple of examples, one very simple and one very complex. The simple one is this. You can create new language around things, around very prosaic and simple things, and it can be just very simple. A word substitution here or there can make an ocean of difference to the language. Consider the following statement. I'd love to help you, Belinda, but. Now consider the following statement. I'd love to help you, Belinda, and. The but is what we've all heard, and it's the old language. Simply replacing but with and you can do that in any sentence.
Mm.
And suddenly a new possibility opens up. Because even though I still can't help you in both circumstances, if I use it means there must be some opportunity for us to do something else or something different, or at least for me to be considered genuine in what I said. That's a very simple example of new language where and is additive and but is subtractive.
Yeah.
And you take away the but. Now, in fact, in all any language that I've encountered, the only place where but is useful is if you're writing a screenplay and you want to create drama.
Mm.
And is much better in every other case. There's stuff going on, but is something that you said just recently. And if you said there's stuff going on and you validate both pieces of information. So that's one example. I'll give you another example of how the language changes things. And this is a complicated one. So one of the charities that I was a director of for many years, over a decade, was a foundation for human longevity and human health. And one of the researchers had a paradigm shift where he said, rather than treating a disease by adding a drug that treats a symptom, why don't we create a drug that takes out something that the body doesn't need that's causing harm? That's completely different to what normally happens. Like antibiotics do that to some degree. They take out a bacteria.
Mm.
Unfortunately, they also take out good bacteria.
Yeah.
So there's pluses and minuses. There are things in your body that accumulate over time. There are molecules that accumulate over time that just are toxic and harmful.
Mm.
They have no use, no positive effect, and plenty of negative effects. And so this foundation, SENS Foundation, spun out this idea and created a drug called Cyclarity, which is based on cyclodextrin, which is a safe chemical. And that drug targets a molecule called 7-ketocholesterol, or 7-KC. And it wraps this toxic molecule that your body makes all the time in this beautiful non-toxic wrapper, and it makes it soluble so that it can be excreted.
Mm.
And we just did the phase 1A clinical trial in Adelaide, and we were able to detect in just the safety trial, firstly, there was no side effects because it's taking out something you don't use and you can't use and hurts you. And it only takes out that one thing and nothing else. So there are literally no harmful side effects. And we actually, for the first time, detected in the urine of the patients who had taken the drug that they were safely peeing out the 7-ketocholesterol. So for the first time, we're extracting a molecule that your body makes in error, and that molecule actually clogs up your immune system.
Wow.
And those immune system cells clog up your arteries. This is actually the root cause of heart disease and arterial sclerosis.
Yeah.
And by changing the language of the paradigm from let's treat the symptom to let's take out the trash, we've developed a drug that's likely to cure the #1 cause of death in the world.
Wow.
And I'm actually very excited about that. Our results are extraordinary. The trial is being run by one of the top plaque specialists on planet Earth, who happens to be in Australia.
Yeah.
And he and the whole team are just absolutely over the moon. So just by changing language, you then change a paradigm that then changes, some molecules that then creates something that can change the entire world. I mean, imagine if you just take heart disease off the table for everyone. Because what we've shown is that when you give this drug to bloated immune cells, they actually excrete the 7-ketocholesterol through the drug, and they actually return back to normal, healthy immune cells.
Amazing.
So, and 90% of the volume of an arterial plaque is made up of these unhealthy, overstuffed immune cells that are trying to digest this toxic molecule.
It's complex. Excuse me, it's complex, but it's absolutely fascinating. And I just love the way you've just talked about the change in language to then the new paradigm and just the way that you've shifted it. It's absolutely fascinating. I've got a really random question for you, and it's just popped up, and based on what your bio and everything and your killer cure, even like that term, Do you think there's
Yeah.
ever going to be a cure for cancer? Like, do you think that that is far away? Like, are you exploring that in anything you're doing with the companies you're working with?
Yeah. Um, so I have a company in portfolio that has a cancer vaccine that can cure cancer at stage zero. Now, stage zero is before stage one. And the problem with that company has been that while they have a vaccine that works, uh, no one could detect stage zero cancer. So they've spent the last 5 years figuring out a way to detect stage zero cancer so they can treat it with their cancer vaccine.
Mm.
I'm talking with another company that has figured out a way to actually heal the DNA of tumors enough so that they can actually not ever metastasize. So they become benign cysts. I'm examining a company right now that has a way of a very small molecule, a peptide even like bodybuilders use, or that seems to turn on a gene that cancer cells turn off, which is the apoptosis pathway that we all our cells, if they get damaged enough, they have a kill switch, and that kill switch just kills them before they become cancerous. And for a cell to become cancerous, it actually overcome that kill switch.
Mm.
And this company seems to have a technology that turns that kill switch back on in a variety of tumors. Um, Now, the thing about cancer is it's not one disease. It's thousands of diseases.
Yeah.
And so to say there's a universal cure for cancer that's going to be universally effective, eventually, probably yes, as our technology gets better. Still, I have companies that treat cancers in new and interesting ways for a variety of cancers. Colorectal in particular, there are major advances there using multi-drug therapies. And there was just an announcement that pancreatic cancer, they've, for the first time ever, using 3 different drugs, been able to actually meaningfully reverse pancreatic cancer. So I would say that, yes, there are definite interventions for many of the common cancers right now that are significantly better than standard of care,
Mm.
that are in the wings or being implemented right now. And then on top of that, we understand the biology so much better now that there are going to be some truly amazing interventions. I don't believe there's going to be one universal cure because that's like saying one universal treatment for all disease.
Yeah.
Unlikely. That said, though, with our ability to use CRISPR and other gene editing technologies, we are able to tackle almost any disease state with the tool of CRISPR or some of the other gene editing technologies. With one of the companies that I'm invested in, Swan Genomics, our Couture fund has invested in, has a tool for sequencing that is enormously much faster than anything else that's out there. So we will see the ability to completely analyze the genome of your entire body and your entire tumor much, much quicker, looking for all the different mutations. That's going to lead to very specific personalized treatments.
It's fascinating. I love that you're on the frontier of everything, like talking around this new world. Like, I want to come back. I want to come to a conversation around the two hardest things and entrepreneur being like the second hardest in a second. But how do
Yes.
you like you are clearly at the edge of the well, you're constantly at the edge of what's next and what's possible.
Yes.
What's your like do you, like what's your secret? Like is it that you're constant like how are you continuously like is does it come back to this constant pursuit of change like impact and a better society, a better future, healthier humans? Like what does this come back to your values? Like how are you constantly having this ability to be involved and connected with some of the most incredible advancements that have ever been
Sure.
possible.
There are three things. The first is my purpose, as I stated before. You know, we need a lot of healthy humans to
Mm,
be able to repair the damage that we've done to our planet and our civilization. Um, it is highly likely that we are the only civilization in the known universe, just because of how old the universe is and how long it took us to evolve. So it would be a complete tragedy for us to destroy that. Now, previous civilizations have been destroyed, and that's been a local phenomena. We, for the first time, have the ability to destroy our civilization globally and wipe out our species. That would be a terrible own goal.
mm,
So, what if we have a world which works for all living things because our civilization thrives?
mm,
We're a long way from that, and yet we could make the changes to fulfill that.
mm,
And that would be mutually fulfilling.
mm.
That would be a better place. So that's a good reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And I would argue that my productivity comes from my values, my kindness, my curiosity, my instinct for getting shit done,
Yes.
the bias for action, all the entrepreneurial stuff. I draw heavily on family, and I'm a full believer in civility and civilization. I'd also say that if you ask people, one of the traits that I possess is the ability to really listen so that other people feel heard.
Mm,
And when you provide a listening ear, people will tell you amazing stuff.
I agree. Random too, like stuff that you unexpected. That's happening to me on the podcast. I'll start with this conversation, and then halfway through, or like 5 minutes towards the end of it, they go bang, and I'm like, "Whoa, hang on! Why don't we talk?" Like that's another conversation in itself. Like, but I think it's feeling comfortable. I think it's energy. It's energy flows in terms of having that connection and feeling safe enough, and like sometimes it takes a little bit to warm up, but I agree. I totally agree. I call it active listening. I think the more you can actively listen and the more you can, have that comfortable silence at times, things come up.
Yeah, I would say that most people think of active listening as the kind of sales technique where you just repeat what someone said.
No.
Uh, the truth of listening is that it is a meditative state.
Mm,
When you meditate, what you're doing is observing your inner voice such that it stops talking. And when you're in that state and you then pay attention to other humans, you get a much deeper insight into what they're saying. You start to live their words. And that's irresistible. When you see someone else living your words, it's the most charismatic thing in the world.
I love the way you're
It can only
challenging
be
me.
done genuinely.
Yeah, it does. Like I love it though. You gently challenged me on active listening and took me to meditative listening, and I'm like, yeah, it's actually right, because I find
Mm,
even just in that this is quite meditative in terms of, can't even say that word properly, but you know what I'm saying, but in terms of,
yes.
that's why like questions will just come to me, like like when you're out walking or doing whatever, that's where I get my best ideas. I get my best ideas in these conversations when I'm just sitting and listening, because it's like someone's saying to me, ask this, be asked this question, ask that question, and that's how this conversation flows.
Yes. You called it instinct earlier. I would say that it's actually what it is truly like to be awake as a human.
Mm, true.
That's true consciousness, is losing yourself in another's words such that you can tap into the eternal.
Yeah. Well, I'm finding your walking quite like calming, believe it or not. Like I'm not feeling seasick. I'm not like, once upon a time during COVID when I had these crazy vestibular migraines and people would be walking and talking about like, I can't do it. Stop, stop. Bill,
Yeah,
we haven't got much
you've
longer.
got to set the pace right.
Totally, yeah, you're just like cruising. Like I love it. But
Exactly.
Bill, you pre-show you said to me entrepreneurship is like the second hardest thing you can do. And I said, well, what's the hardest thing? But tell me a little bit about that. Like, you obviously work with a lot of founders. You've had a lot of experience over the years. I'd love your perspective.
So doing a startup, whether it's philanthropic or for profit, whether it's a social enterprise, whether it's a club, is basically getting, if you're doing it successfully, it's convincing a whole bunch of people to jump off a cliff with you with a large box of parts, and you assemble the aircraft on the way down.
So true.
And if you do it right, you just sort of kiss the ground and take off.
So true.
Yeah. So for like that is definitely a 10 out of 10 for difficulty.
100%.
Yeah. And I think the people mythologize the role of founders too much. A founder CEO has one job, and that is to manufacture clarity out of ambiguity in such a compelling way that a team forms around them and that other people are excited enough to buy the products, invest the money, talk about it. And if you can't articulate what you do well, and that could be a physical articulation, you just might do well by just doing stuff. But still, if you can't make it clear, if the more ambiguity you have, the less likely you are to succeed.
Mm.
I remember meeting Ben from Ben and Jerry's, and they had a very clear mission, a very, very clear way of branding, of making their products, of composing it, of engaging with their customers. And it came from one question. They would put together a flavor combination, they'd give it a crazy name, and they'd ask this one question. And that question was, is it fun?
Mm.
And if enough people said it was fun, it went on the menu. And when they went to sell their business, they had, I think, about 50 million in turnover. They were not really very profitable. They couldn't manage distribution more than a state away from Vermont, right? Like they hardly could distribute in New York, right? And for a business like that, you would expect to be acquired for something like 1 or 2 times revenue because they weren't growing. So it's 100 million. Unilever paid $750 million for Ben and Jerry's. And the reason is they did a survey of all the vanilla ice creams in the United States. And the number one most recognized brand was Ben and Jerry's World's Best Vanilla. 90% of respondents said it was the best vanilla ice cream. Fewer than 15% of them had ever tasted it. That is brand power right there.
100%. It's crazy. I can see it in my head right now. Ben and
Yeah.
Jerry. It's just so vivid. Like just the whole, yeah, that is absolute brown power.
Yeah. And it's such a tragedy. Like Unilever agreed to a whole lot of social initiatives that would be maintained during the acquisition, and they did honor that. It's just that Unilever has supported a whole bunch of other things that Ben and Jerry can't abide, and so they've actually had to leave their own brand, which is a shame.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of good has come from a lot of fun out of ice cream,
Yeah. Oh,
just
and have
because they created this wonderful language and this wonderful question, is it fun?
Yeah, I love it. I've got one final question for you. I feel like we could keep
Yeah.
talking and walking and we could walk kilometers. We could talk and walk kilometers right now. When
Yes,
you
I
when
do
I
about 22,000 steps a day
oh well there you
when I'm on
go.
course.
I feel like you've answered it, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I feel like you might give me a different response. But when someone books in for the pod, I always ask a question, and there's a book coming out of this because there's just fascinating insights. It comes back to listening, really, in terms of I always ask, what's one unique insight or lived experience you would like to share when it comes to life, leadership, business, and or investing in your case? Is there anything that you
Well,
would like to share that you haven't?
I'd just like to reiterate how important purpose and values are and articulating them clearly.
Mm,
There's so many things that people write up to soft factors. There's, oh, it doesn't really matter what the brand is yet, or it doesn't really matter what we stand for, or when we're hiring, it doesn't really matter if we have, resonant values between staff, right? Because that's all soft stuff. We need somebody with 3 PhDs. And the number of tech companies I've seen fly apart because they hired people with very different values,
yeah.
with mutually corrosive rather than, you resonant values. It's legion. And if you don't sweat those things, it's very, very hard to make it work.
Agree. I love it. Such a great conversation, Bill. Like I feel like we could just, yeah, like I said, I feel like we could just keep walking and talking, but I am going to let you
Absolutely.
get back to your day. What time is it in Ireland? Is it like morning or evening? Oh no, it's evening, isn't
It's
it?
it's nearly 10 p.m. So
Oh,
yes,
oh
it's the end
gosh.
of my day.
Yeah, because it looks like you've kind of got this mystique that I'm thinking it's nice and sunny out there. Bill, how do we,
I have really good lighting.
yeah, how do we find out more about you? How do we find out more about your, like, where's best to reach out to you? I know
I'm
you've
on
got your
every
podcast.
platform.
Yeah.
I'm on every platform. The Kill or Cure podcast is a good place. You can find me on LinkedIn, on X, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Insta. You name it, I'm there. Um, I've practiced inbox zero for 30 years, so I do actually respond to every piece of information that comes my way.
Have you set up any agents for your emails yet?
No, I absolutely refuse. I'll give you a very quick story. Uh, I saw a board meeting the other day, um, where in one of my startups, where they were discussing a sort of tricky HR matter, and the AI recorded the board meeting and then distributed the notes to all of the staff.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale, right? Like, um,
100%.
I have a system, that I published on my Medium account on how to actually handle message traffic and how to reach inbox zero. It's called email triage. It works for social media as well and for, messaging.
I feel like you and I have a lot in common. I have a zero inbox. Like people used to always like, I cannot believe your inbox is always like you've cleaned out by the end of the day. I'm like, it just is. Like I just have a system that works for me and it's what I do. Like it's just, and I respond
Oh,
to
we should swap
everything.
notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Read my Medium post on email triage and see if it's the same.
Yeah, okay, I will. I'll check it out. Bill, thank you for your time. I feel very honored and privileged to be talking to you.
Ah, honor is all mine, B.
Yeah, incredible. Like just a great conversation. And who would have
Thank
thought?
you.
Charles didn't tell me you were an Aussie, so there you go. Like,
He left out the most important detail, didn't he?
yeah, well, it was
Didn't
just
tell
in a
me you're an
WhatsApp. He
Aussie
was
either.
just, I don't think he even knows I'm talking to you, but like he was just in a WhatsApp. So anyway, we've just given him a special mention. So we've got a mutual connection, everybody.
Yep.
But Bill, thank you so much. I'm hoping you're going to go and get some sleep now and get some rest. So I'll let you.
After I empty my inbox, I will.
Will you have a good night's sleep? And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks, B.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Thank you.
Bye.